The beginning of conflict. The year is 1296. England and Scotland stand on the brink of war. King Edward I of England, a powerful and ambitious monarch, sets his sights on Scotland. His intention is clear: to bring the Scottish kingdom under English control and end its independence once and for all. Edward marches north with a formidable army, battle-hardened and disciplined. The Scottish forces, weakened by internal divisions and political turmoil, struggle to mount an effective resistance against the English invasion. What follows is a systematic and brutal campaign of conquest. Town after town falls to English forces. Castle after castle is besieged and captured. The Scottish nobility, once proud and independent, are forced to bend the knee or face destruction. The Battle of Falkirk. By 1298, Scottish resistance has found a champion in William Wallace, a fierce warrior who has united scattered Scottish forces. But King Edward is not one to accept defiance. He gathers his army and marches to meet Wallace in open battle. At Falkirk, the two armies clash in a devastating engagement. The English forces, led by Edward's tactical brilliance, prove superior. The English longbowmen rain arrows upon the Scottish formations, breaking their defensive lines. The Scottish army is routed and Wallace is forced to flee. The Battle of Falkirk is a turning point. Scottish resistance begins to crumble, and English control tightens like a vice around Scotland. Scotland conquered. By 1304, Scotland has been completely conquered. English garrisons occupy the major castles. English law replaces Scottish customs. Edward I, known to the Scots as a Hammer of the Scots, has achieved what he set out to do. Scotland is no longer an independent kingdom. It is a subjugated territory under English rule. The Scottish nobility have either submitted to English authority or been driven into exile. The common people suffer under the occupation. Hope for Scottish independence seems lost. But in the shadows, resistance still flickers like a dying flame, waiting for someone bold enough to fan it back into life. The rise of Robert the Bruce. The year is 1306. In a small church in Dumfries, a dramatic and violent act changes everything. Robert the Bruce, a Scottish nobleman with a claim to the throne, meets with his rival John Comyn. An argument breaks out, and in a moment of fury, Bruce strikes Comyn down. There is no turning back now. Bruce has committed himself to a path of open rebellion. Weeks later, he seizes the Scottish throne, crowning himself King Robert I of Scotland. It is a bold and desperate move. Bruce has few supporters, little money, and England's full military might array against him. But he has something more valuable than all of these: determination and a burning desire to see Scotland free. The war for Scottish independence is reopened. This time, it will not be easily extinguished. The death of a king. In 1307, as Bruce begins his guerrilla campaign against the English garrisons in Scotland, news arrives that shakes both kingdoms. King Edward I is dead. The mighty warrior king, the Hammer of the Scots, has succumbed to illness while marching north to crush Bruce's rebellion. On his deathbed, he reportedly commands his son to carry on a war against Scotland without mercy, to never give up until Bruce is defeated and Scotland is firmly under English control. But the son who inherits the throne is not the father. Edward II, a different kind of king. Edward II is crowned King of England. He is young, barely 23 years old. He is inexperienced in matters of war and governance. Where his father was decisive and ruthless, Edward II is uncertain and easily influenced. The English nobles observe their new king with concern. He lacks the commanding presence his father possessed. He prefers the company of favorites and courtiers to the council of experienced military commanders. He is more interested in entertainment and personal friendships than in matters of state and war. Most critically, he does not share his father's single-minded determination to conquer Scotland. Where Edward I would pursue Bruce relentlessly, Edward II hesitates, delays, and allows his attention to wander to other matters. The tide begins to turn. This weakness in English leadership does not go unnoticed by Robert the Bruce. He seizes the opportunity. With English pressure easing, Bruce begins a methodical campaign to reclaim Scotland. He avoids large-scale battles where the English superiority in numbers and equipment would be decisive. Instead, he employs guerrilla tactics, ambushes, night raids, and sudden strikes against isolated garrisons. Slowly but surely, he begins to reclaim Scottish castles and towns. The English position in Scotland, so dominant under Edward I, begins to weaken. Garrisons find themselves isolated and under constant threat. Supply lines are harassed. Morale declines. And in the hearts of the Scottish people, hope begins to grow once more. The flame of independence, nearly extinguished, burns brighter with each of Bruce's victories. The stage is set. By 1313, 7 years after Bruce claimed the throne, the situation has transformed completely. Robert the Bruce controls most of Scotland. The English hold only a few key strongholds, the most important of which is Stirling Castle. Bruce knows that to truly secure Scottish independence, he must drive the English from Scotland entirely. And the English king, finally roused to action, knows that he cannot allow Scotland to slip from his grasp without a fight. The stage is set for a confrontation that will decide the fate of Scotland once and for all. The greatest battle of the wars of Scottish independence is approaching, a battle that will be remembered for centuries to come. The Battle of Bannockburn. Robert the Bruce's ultimatum. The year is 1313. Robert the Bruce has fought for 7 long years to reclaim Scotland from English occupation. He has won victories through cunning, courage, and relentless determination. But now, he faces a new challenge, not on the battlefield, but in the halls of Scottish nobility. Many Scottish lords remain uncertain. Some have sworn allegiance to Bruce. Others still cling to their oaths to the English crown, hoping to protect their lands and titles. Still others waver between both sides, waiting to see which way the wind will blow. Bruce knows that a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. He cannot secure Scotland's independence while his own nobles remain uncommitted or actively oppose him. The time has come to force a decision. In the spring of 1313, Robert the Bruce issues a proclamation that echoes throughout Scotland. His message is clear and uncompromising. All Scottish nobles must declare their allegiance to the crown of Scotland. Those who refuse will be considered enemies of the realm. Their lands will be seized and redistributed to those loyal to Scotland's cause. There will be no neutrality. There will be no half measures. You are either with Scotland or against her. The ultimatum sends shockwaves through the Scottish nobility. Lords who have sat on the fence, playing both sides, must now make a choice. To support Bruce means risking English retaliation. To oppose him means losing everything they own in Scotland. One by one, the Scottish nobles come to Bruce's side. Some come willingly, convinced of the justice of Scotland's cause. Others come reluctantly, driven by fear of losing their ancestral lands. But they come nonetheless. Bruce's kingdom grows stronger with each new pledge of loyalty. His army swells with fresh recruits. His authority becomes undeniable. But Robert the Bruce is not finished. There is one more demand to make, one that will force the English to respond. The demand for Stirling Castle. Stirling Castle stands like a sentinel on its rocky crag, commanding the landscape for miles around. It is not merely another fortress. It is the key to Scotland. The castle controls the main route north into the Scottish Highlands. Any army wishing to move from the Scottish lowlands into the mountainous north must pass under its shadow. Whoever holds Stirling Castle holds the gateway to Scotland, and for years it has been firmly in English hands. Robert the Bruce gazes up at the fortress walls and makes his decision. He sends a message to Sir Philip Mowbray, the English commander of Stirling Castle. Surrender the castle to its rightful king. Surrender it to Scotland. Do this, and you and your men may depart in peace. Refuse, and you will be taken by force. Sir Philip Mowbray reads a message and shakes his head. He is a loyal knight, bound by oath to the English crown. He will not simply hand over one of England's most important strongholds without a fight. He sends his reply, I hold this castle in the name of King Edward of England. I will not surrender it to a rebel. If you want Stirling, you will have to take it. Bruce expected this answer. He turns to his brother, Edward Bruce, a fierce and impetuous warrior, always eager for action. Edward, Bruce says, I give you command of the siege. Take Stirling Castle. Bring it back under Scottish control. Edward Bruce grins. Consider it done, brother. The siege begins. Edward Bruce gathers his forces and marches on Stirling Castle. He surrounds the fortress, cutting off all supply routes. His men construct siege engines and begin the slow, methodical work of breaking down the castle's defenses. But Stirling Castle is no ordinary fortress. Its walls are thick and strong. Its position on the rocky crag makes it nearly impossible to assault directly. Sir Philip Mowbray and his garrison are well-provisioned and determined to hold out. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. The siege drags on with no clear end in sight. Edward Bruce grows frustrated. He is a man of action, not patience. He wants a decisive victory, not an endless stalemate. Then, in a surprising turn of events, Sir Philip Mowbray requests a parley. Edward Bruce agrees, curious about what the English commander has to propose. They meet under a flag of truce between the siege lines and the castle walls. "I have a proposition," Mowbray says. "This siege benefits neither of us. My men and I are trapped here. Your forces are tied down besieging us. We could remain locked in this stalemate for years." "Then surrender." Edward Bruce replies simply, "I cannot do that without orders from my king," Mowbray responds. "But I propose this. I will send word to King Edward. If an English army does not arrive to relieve this castle by Midsummer's Day 1314, I will surrender Stirling to you without further bloodshed." Edward Bruce considers the offer. It is unusual, but it has merit. If the English don't come, he gets the castle without losing more men. And if they do come, a slow smile spreads across Edward's face. If they do come, then Scotland will have the chance to face the English in open battle and defeat them once and for all. Agreed, Edward Bruce says. Midsummer's Day, 1314. If no English army arrives by then, Stirling is ours. The two men shake hands, and the agreement is sealed. Word reaches England. News of the pact travels swiftly south to London. When it reaches the court of King Edward II, it causes an uproar. The English nobles gather in the great hall, their voices rising in heated debate. "This is a direct challenge," one lord shouts. "Bruce is forcing our hand. If we do not respond, we lose Stirling Castle." Another argues, "And if we lose Stirling, we lose all of Scotland. We cannot allow this rebellion to succeed." A third voice adds, "If Scotland breaks free, what's to stop Wales? What's to stop Ireland? The entire realm could fracture." All eyes turn to King Edward II, seated upon his throne. The young king feels the weight of their expectations pressing down upon him. This is the moment his father warned him about. This is the test of his kingship. Edward knows he has avoided confronting Robert the Bruce for too long. He has allowed the Scottish situation to deteriorate while he dealt with domestic concerns and personal interests. But now there is no escape. He must act or be remembered as a king who lost Scotland. Edward rises from his throne. "Prepare the army," he commands. "We march to Scotland. We will relieve Stirling Castle, and we will crush this rebellion once and for all." The gathering of the English host. Across England, the call to arms goes out. From every corner of the kingdom, soldiers begin to gather. Knights don their armor and sharpen their swords. They are the elite warriors of medieval warfare, heavily armored, mounted on powerful war horses, trained from childhood in the art of combat. Longbowmen arrive from Wales and the English countryside. These archers are deadly accurate, capable of raining hundreds of arrows per minute upon enemy formations. Their longbows can pierce armor at 200 yards. Men-at-arms assemble, professional soldiers who fight on foot, equipped with swords, axes, and shields. And finally, the heavy cavalry, 2,000 mounted knights in full armor, the shock troops of any medieval army, capable of smashing through enemy lines with devastating force. The army that gathers is staggering in size, 20,000 men. It is the largest military force ever assembled to invade Scotland. Never before has such a massive host marched north across the border. Supply wagons are loaded with provisions. Blacksmiths, surgeons, and servants accompany the army. This is not a raiding party or a punitive expedition. This is a full-scale invasion designed to end the Scottish rebellion permanently. King Edward II takes personal command of this mighty host. He is determined to succeed where his recent campaigns have failed. He will rescue Stirling Castle. He will defeat Robert the Bruce. He will restore English dominance over Scotland. The English army begins its march north, the march into Scotland. The English host moves like a great serpent across the countryside, stretching for miles along the roads leading into Scotland. The ground trembles beneath the tread of thousands of feet and hooves. But the pace is punishing. Edward is determined to reach Stirling before the midsummer deadline. He drives his army hard, covering 70 miles in just 1 week. The soldiers begin to suffer. Marching in armor under the summer sun is exhausting. Many men fall out of the column, unable to continue. Supplies run low. Hunger gnaws at the bellies of the troops. Still, Edward pushes forward. Stirling Castle must be relieved. The deadline must be met. By late June 1314, the English army crosses into Scotland and approaches Stirling. But the soldiers are worn out, exhausted from a forced march, weakened by fatigue and hunger. They do not know it yet, but they are marching toward a battlefield that Robert the Bruce has already chosen. A battlefield where the terrain favors the Scots. A battlefield where the greatest battle of the wars of Scottish independence is about to begin. The die is cast. Robert the Bruce receives word that the English army is approaching. 20,000 men, his scouts tell him, the largest force England has ever sent into Scotland. Bruce gathers his commanders, his brother Edward, Thomas Randolph, James Douglas, and Robert Keith. The English are coming, Bruce says quietly. We are outnumbered nearly 3-1. We have few archers, almost no heavy cavalry. If we meet them in open battle on ground of their choosing, we will be destroyed. Then we don't give them that choice. Edward Bruce says fiercely. We choose the ground. We choose the time. We make them fight on our terms. Robert the Bruce nods slowly. Exactly. Gentlemen, prepare your men. We march to New Park near Stirling. There we will make our stand. There we will decide the fate of Scotland. The Scottish army begins to move into position. The die is cast. The armies are converging. And soon, the fields of Bannockburn will run red with blood. The battle that will determine Scotland's future is about to begin. The gathering storm. As June 1314 draws toward its climax, two armies prepare to clash in a battle that will decide the fate of Scotland. Never before have such forces assembled on Scottish soil. The fields near Stirling Castle are about to become the stage for one of the most decisive battles in medieval history. But these two armies could not be more different. One is massive, heavily equipped, and confident in its superiority. The other is smaller, more lightly armed, but fighting for its very survival. Let's look at these two forces that are about to collide. The English army, a mighty host. The English army that approaches Stirling is truly formidable. 20,000 soldiers, the largest invasion force ever to enter Scotland. This is not a hastily assembled militia or a ragtag collection of volunteers. This is a professional military force, representing the full might of the English crown. Years of warfare in Wales, France, and Scotland have forged these men into experienced, battle-hardened warriors. The heavy cavalry. At the heart of the English army are 2,000 heavy cavalry, the elite shock troops of medieval warfare. These are not ordinary horsemen. These are knights and mounted men-at-arms, each one a warrior who was trained since childhood in the art of mounted combat. They wear full suits of chainmail and plate armor, covering them from head to toe in steel. Their war horses are massive destriers, specially bred for size and strength, themselves protected by armor. Each knight carries a lance, a sword, a dagger, and sometimes a mace or warhammer. When heavy cavalry charges, the earth shakes. The thunder of hooves, the forest of lowered lances, the sheer weight of armored men and horses crashing into enemy lines, is one of the most devastating forces on any medieval battlefield. This is England's hammer. This is what has broken Scottish resistance time and time again. The knights, beyond the heavy cavalry. Hundreds more knights fight on foot as men-at-arms. These are noblemen, each one wealthy enough to afford the best armor and weapons money can buy. They are skilled swordsmen, trained in individual combat, and they carry themselves with the arrogance of men who have never known defeat. They were the coats of arms of England's great families. The Earls of Gloucester, Hereford, and Pembroke lead contingents of their own retainers. These are men with reputations to uphold, family honor to defend, and titles to protect. The longbowmen. And then there are the longbowmen, hundreds upon hundreds of archers drawn from England and Wales. These men wield the English longbow, a weapon that has revolutionized medieval warfare. Standing as tall as a man, the longbow requires years of practice to master, but in skilled hands, it is devastating. An experienced archer can loose 12 arrows per minute. These arrows can pierce chainmail at 200 yards. When hundreds of archers shoot together, the sky darkens with their volley. The longbow has won England victories at Falkirk and countless other battles. It has broken Scottish spear formations and turned disciplined armies into fleeing mobs. The men-at-arms. Rounding out the English force are thousands of men-at-arms, professional soldiers who fight on foot. They carry swords, axes, maces, and shields. They wear chain mail or padded armor. They may not have the prestige of knights or the devastating power of heavy cavalry, but they are experienced fighters, and they form the solid backbone of any medieval army. English advantages. The advantages the English possess are overwhelming. Superior numbers. They outnumber the Scots nearly 3-1. Superior equipment. Their armor is heavier. Their weapons are better forged. Their supplies are more plentiful. Superior cavalry. With 2,000 heavy cavalry against Scotland's mere 500 light horsemen, the English have complete dominance in mounted warfare. Superior firepower. Their longbowmen can devastate enemy formations from a distance. As this mighty host approaches Stirling, confidence runs high. Many English nobles believe the battle is already won. How can 7,000 poorly equipped Scotsmen stand against the full might of England? The Scottish army, Scotland's last hope. In stark contrast to the English host, the Scottish army is small, lightly equipped, and facing almost impossible odds. Robert the Bruce has managed to gather 7,000 men, every soldier he can muster from across Scotland. This is not just an army. This is the entire military strength of the Scottish nation. If this force is destroyed, there will be no second chance. Scotland's bid for independence will die on the field of battle. The infantry. The core of the Scottish army is infantry, foot soldiers armed with axes, swords, and most importantly, pikes. These men are not professional soldiers. Many are common farmers, shepherds, and tradesmen who have taken up arms to defend their homeland. They wear little armor, perhaps a leather jerkin, a simple helmet, maybe a shield. They cannot afford the chain mail and plate that protects English knights. But what they lack in equipment, they possess in determination. These men are fighting for their homes, their families, their freedom. They are led by a king who has spent 7 years fighting alongside them, sleeping in the same camps, sharing their hardships. They would follow Robert the Bruce into hell itself. The pikes. The primary weapon of the Scottish infantry is the pike, a long spear, 12 to 15 feet in length, with a sharp steel point. Individually, a pike is a simple weapon, but in formation, pikes become something far more dangerous. The cavalry, or lack thereof. The Scottish cavalry numbers only 500 horsemen, and they are not true heavy cavalry. They lack the armor, the war horses, and equipment to charge into enemy lines. Instead, these are light cavalry, scouts and skirmishers. They are useful for reconnaissance, for pursuing fleeing enemies, for harassing supply lines. But in a direct confrontation with English heavy cavalry, they would be slaughtered. Sir Robert Keith commands these 500 horsemen. He knows their limitations, and he knows they cannot be wasted in a futile charge against armored knights. The archers. The Scottish have few archers. Unlike England, Scotland has not developed a strong archery tradition. The few bowmen in Bruce's army are vastly outnumbered by English longbowmen. This is a critical weakness. The Scots cannot match the English in range firepower. They cannot shoot down enemy cavalry before it reaches their lines. They cannot thin enemy ranks from a distance. Scottish disadvantages. The disadvantages facing the Scottish army are severe. Inferior numbers, 7,000 against 20,000, nearly 3-1 odds. Inferior equipment. Lighter armor, fewer weapons, less protection. Inferior cavalry. 500 light horsemen against 2,000 heavy cavalry. Inferior range weapons. Few archers against hundreds of English longbowmen. On paper, this battle should not even be close. The English should sweep the Scots from the field. But Robert the Bruce is not relying on superior numbers or equipment. He is relying on something else entirely. The schiltron, Scotland's secret weapon. The schiltron is an ancient Scottish defensive formation, and it is Bruce's answer to English cavalry superiority. A schiltron is a tightly packed formation of pikemen, arranged in a circle or square. The men stand shoulder to shoulder, their pikes projecting outward in every direction like the spines of a hedgehog. When cavalry charges a schiltron, they face a wall of steel points. Horses will not willingly charge into pikes. Their instinct is to shy away. If riders force them forward, the pikes impale both horse and rider. The schiltron is a defensive formation designed to hold ground against cavalry attacks. At the Battle of Falkirk, Scottish schiltron successfully held off English cavalry charges until English longbowmen broke them apart with arrow volleys. But Robert the Bruce has learned from that defeat. He has refined the schiltron, trained his men in its use, and most importantly, he has a plan to neutralize the English archers before they can destroy his formations. The schiltron is not just a defensive measure. In Bruce's hands, it will become something revolutionary, an offensive weapon. The Scottish command, leaders of the rebellion. Robert the Bruce has divided his small army into 4 divisions, each commanded by one of Scotland's finest warriors. King Robert the Bruce, the rear guard. Robert the Bruce himself commands the rear guard, the 4th and final division of the Scottish army. At 40 years old, Bruce is at the height of his powers. He is a skilled warrior, a brilliant tactician, and a charismatic leader. For 7 years, he has fought a guerrilla war against English occupation. He had been hunted, defeated, exiled, and brought to the brink of despair. But he has never given up. And now, he stands on the verge of his greatest victory, or his final defeat. Bruce knows that everything depends on this battle. If he wins, Scotland's independence is secure. If he loses, he will likely die on the field, and Scotland will remain under English rule for generations. The rear guard is positioned to reinforce any part of the line that comes under pressure. It is a strategic reserve, to be committed at the decisive moment. Thomas Randolph, Earl of Moray, the vanguard. Thomas Randolph is Robert the Bruce's nephew and one of his most trusted commanders. He is brave, skilled, and fiercely loyal to the Scottish cause. Randolph commands the vanguard, the 1st division of the Scottish army. This is the most dangerous position, as the vanguard will be first to meet the English assault. It requires a commander of courage and quick thinking. Randolph has proven himself in numerous skirmishes and raids. Bruce trusts him completely. Edward Bruce, the 3rd Division. Edward Bruce, Robert's younger brother, commands the 3rd Division. Where Robert is calculating and strategic, Edward is impetuous and aggressive. He is a fierce warrior, always eager for battle, sometimes dangerously so. Edward's division holds a critical position in the Scottish line. His natural aggression makes him ideal for offensive action, but Bruce has warned him to hold position and maintain formation unless ordered otherwise. The bond between the Bruce brothers is strong. They have fought side by side for years. Edward would die before he let his brother down. Sir James Douglas, the reserve. Sir James Douglas, known as the Black Douglas for his dark hair and fearsome reputation, commands a 4th Division, held in reserve alongside Bruce's rear guard. Douglas is one of Scotland's most feared warriors. He has conducted devastating raids into northern England, burning English towns and striking terror into the hearts of border communities. The English hate and fear him in equal measure. His division will be committed only when needed, either to exploit a breakthrough or to shore up a weakening position. Sir Robert Keith, the cavalry. Sir Robert Keith, the Marischal of Scotland, commands of 500 horsemen. Keith is a veteran cavalry commander who understands both the potential and limitations of his force. He knows his light cavalry cannot meet English heavy cavalry in a direct charge, but he also knows there are other ways cavalry can influence a battle. He waits for Bruce's signal, ready to strike when the moment is right. The balance of power. As the 2 armies take their positions near Stirling, the balance of power appears overwhelmingly in England's favor. 20,000 against 7,000. Heavy cavalry against light horsemen. Professional soldiers against common farmers. Superior equipment against simple weapons. King Edward II and his nobles look out over the Scottish positions and see certain victory. But they do not understand what they are facing. They do not realize that Robert the Bruce has chosen this battlefield carefully. They do not know that every Scottish soldier is prepared to fight to the death for their freedom. They do not yet realize that numbers and equipment do not always determine the outcome of battles. Sometimes leadership matters more. Sometimes determination matters more. Sometimes fighting for your homeland matters more than anything else. The eve of battle. Night falls on June 22nd, 1314. The two armies camp within sight of each other. Campfires flicker across the landscape like fallen stars. In the English camp, there is confidence, even arrogance. Many knights are already planning what they will do after battle, what lands they will claim, what titles they will demand, how they will celebrate their inevitable victory. In the Scottish camp, the mood is different. These men know they face overwhelming odds. They know many of them will not survive tomorrow, but they also know why they are fighting. Robert the Bruce moves among his soldiers, speaking words of encouragement, checking their formations, ensuring everyone knows their role. Tomorrow, he tells them, we fight for Scotland. Not for me, not for glory, not for gold, for Scotland, for our homes, for our families, for our freedom. The English think they have already won because they outnumber us. Let us show them that free men fighting for their homeland are worth 10 times their number in foreign invaders. A cheer rises from the Scottish ranks. Tomorrow, the Battle of Bannockburn will begin. Tomorrow, Scotland's fate will be decided. Tomorrow, history will be made.